Hello everyone, I'm Bindu Trikha, Assistant Professor, IMS Ghaziabad. Today we would be discussing about function overloading and function overriding. Actually, both the terms look similar, but there is a lot of difference between overloading and overriding. So first, let us see what is function overloading. Overloading refers to the use of same thing for different purposes. For example, in function overloading, what we do, we have the same function name and these functions are used for different purposes. Say we have to calculate the sum of two integer numbers or we have to calculate the sum of two floating point numbers. The function is same, that is to add the two values, but basically the parameters are different. In first case we have to add two integer values and in next case we have to add two floating point values. So function overloading refers to the use of same function name for different purposes, and C++ allows us to create a number of different functions with the same name, and the differentiation is done on the basis of number of parameters and type of parameters being passed. For example, I have a function named sum, and in this we have passed int, three integer type with parameters, and I have one more function sum, and in this I have int comma float. Now here we have two parameters, int comma float, and in the first case we have three parameters, int comma int. So in C++ we can have multiple same name functions, but these should be differentiated on the basis of number of parameters and type of parameters being passed basically. For example, let us see here. We have area, function named area, and we have two data types, parameters, integer comma integer, and one more area named function, and it has only one parameter of integer type. The first one would be calculating the area of a rectangle, and the second one would be calculating the area of square. So in area of rectangle we have called the function area L comma b, where L and b both are integer type variables, and in second case area of square we have called area S, where we have S as an integer type parameter, and it represents the side of the square. Now let us come to the definition of these two functions: int area int L comma int b, return L into b, int area int S, return S into S. Now here when area L comma b is called, the compiler would check that this particular definition is for which function, or for this particular call I have to execute which particular definition. So it would find that it has two parameters, both are of integer type, so first definition would be executed, and in second case the second definition would be executed. This is function overloading. Now we come to function overriding. Now function overriding is a concept that is being used in case of inheritance. Now what is inheritance? Inheritance is having features of we have a base class and we have a derived class, or we can say we have a parent class and we have a child class. The child class inherits the features of the base class. Now function overriding is a feature that allows us to have same function in child class as well as in the parent class. Now child class inherits the data members or member functions of a parent class, but when we want to override a function, that means we want to use a newer version for a particular old function that is being written in the parent class, we use the concept of function overriding. In function overriding we have same name function in the parent class as well as in the child class. Now when in inheritance we know we create the object of the derived class. Now through the object of derived class, when we call that particular function, the child class function is executed. That means it has overridden the function of the parent class. Now to override a function, the function prototype must be exactly same in the parent class as well as in the child class. So it should have the same signature in child class, and by signature we mean that it should have the same data type and the same sequence of parameters. Say I have a sum function in the parent class which has two parameters, integer comma integer, and we have the same function named sum in the base class, derived class or child class. It also has the same function named sum with two parameters, integer comma integer. Then in that case the function of the child class would be executed and the function of the parent class would not be executed. Now for example, we have a base class and in this we have used a function display, and this function is just printing a statement. This is function of a parent class, and in derived class public base class, that means I have inherited the base class or the derived class has inherited the features of the base class. Now public void display cout function of child class. In this display function of the derived class, the print statement is function of child class. Now in main function, since we have declared the object of the derived class, so obj dot dsp, that means display function, would be executed for the child class, not for the parent class, that is for the derived class, not for the base class. So the output for this particular program would be it would print function of child class, because the function in the base class, in the derived class, has overridden the function of the base class. The function of base class will not be executed, only the function of derived class is executed. If we want to execute the function of the base class, then we need to use the scope resolution operator for that. But in function overriding, we use this particular concept, and it is a runtime connectivity basically. Now we have the difference of the function overloading and function overriding. First difference is on the basis of inheritance. Function overloading can occur without inheritance, but for function overriding it is must to have a parent class as well as the child class. Function signature. In function overloading, the functions must have different signature. That means they should have either different number of parameters or different type of parameters, but it should be different. No two functions with the same signature are allowed in function overloading. And for function in overriding, function signature must be same. So this is major difference between function overloading and function overriding, that the function signature must be different in function overloading, but in function overriding the signatures must be same. And then we have the scope of functions. So overloaded functions are in the same scope. That means if I am using two overloaded functions in the same main function or in the same class, then it is function overloading. But for overriding, since the functions are written in the different classes, one in the base class and one in the derived class, so their scopes are different. And then we have behavior of functions. Overloading is used to have same name functions which behave differently depending upon the parameters passed to them. Overriding is needed when derived class function has to do some added or different job than the base class function. Now, behaviorally, overloading means we have to do certain different types of tasks, but what we have done is we have given the same name to all the functions. But in overriding, what we basically do is we have a base class function and we want to improve that function, or we want to add something to that particular function, then we can write the same name function in the child class, in the base class or in the child class, and that function would be executed using the concept of function overriding. So this is all about function overloading and function overriding. These are the two concepts that students generally confuse a lot. They have a confusion among these two topics. So overloading is not at all associated with inheritance, but function overriding is totally based upon the concepts of inheritance. So this is all about function overloading and function overriding. So thank you and have a nice day.